Today I'm here to show you a new 360 camera. Here it is. It is the QooCam 3. This is a next generation 360 camera from a Chinese company called Kandao. They've produced a couple of 360 cameras before along with some other hardware and software. The main features of the QooCam 3 include two fairly large sensors, the ability to shoot DNG raw photos at 64 megapixels, which is fairly large for a consumer 360 camera. And with an aperture of f1.6, the camera should also be able to shoot excellent low light video and photos. So what is this camera about? Is it actually good? I've been testing it out for about a week and a half now. And I was sent this camera for free, so bear that in mind when you are watching this review. This was sent for me for free. So let's take a look at what this camera can do. I'm going to show you the hardware capabilities, obviously some example videos and photos, and also what software the company's provided, because there's a whole new software suite that allows you to kind of get the most out of your videos and photos shot with the QooCam 3. So let's get into it. Now, if I'm perfectly honest, I've used some cameras from Kandao before, and they've been a bit hit and miss. The last version, the last 360 camera they made really faced some issues. I'm happy to say that this camera does not face those similar hardware issues, and so far I've been using it and it's worked just as well as any other 360 camera that I've tried. No overheating, no distortion of the lenses or anything like that. So if you want a quick conclusion, I am overall quite impressed with the hardware of the QooCam 3. The sensors in the QooCam 3 are larger than any other consumer 360 camera that's under $500, and actually the QooCam is pretty cheap for what it can do. In the right conditions, it can shoot very good quality 360 video, even though it's once again capped at 5.7K. It seems to be a limit now for 360 cameras, 5.7K, so it's not going to be super sharp when you reframe that 5.7K, but the fairly large sensors and the low 1.6 aperture, particularly in lower light conditions, I do see an improvement. When shooting in decent lighting conditions daytime, you're not going to notice a huge difference if you're comparing it with other 360 cameras. The obvious comparison is the Insta360 X3. I will do a kind of side-by-side comparison of these two cameras in a different video, but just to have a quick look, in daylight conditions, I don't really see a huge difference, even though the QooCam 3 does have slightly larger sensors. But once again, shooting at nighttime with artificial lights or in just very dark conditions, I do notice more of a difference. Just looking at the design of the camera, I don't know if you guys ever used a GoPro Max, but it basically looks like a slightly larger GoPro Max, this kind of square design, which actually I kind of like this design. It means it can sit down on a table on a flat surface and it's not likely to fall over as it's not top heavy. The two fisheye lenses opposite each other, with one side featuring a touch screen for controlling the camera. You can control all of the settings, select the different modes. So it's very easy to control and pretty user-friendly. One issue I have noticed with the design of the QooCam 3 is the placements of the lenses and the thickness of the camera, which is quite thick for a consumer 360 camera, means the stitching distance, which refers to how close you can get to the camera without some distortion happening. As you can see here in this clip, whenever I go in between the lenses, it kind of has a distortion, and I'm still about half a meter away here, so that means no object can get within about half a meter of the lenses at the sides of the camera, or you're going to have this distortion effect. The camera features 4 microphones, which means it can create ambisonic audio, which works really well with 360 VR video. It means the audio comes from exactly where the audio comes from in real life. It's kind of like a surround sound effect, especially when you're watching these videos back on a VR headset. It's very immersive. Hey guys, I'm out here shooting with the QooCam 3. I'm kind of here to test these 4 microphones that it has for ambisonic audio. So I don't know what this sounds like. I'm walking around because you should get this kind of surround sound effect if it's working as it should. So yeah, this is supposed to be really good for audio. And yeah, you're hearing this for the first time, I guess so am I. The QooCam is also waterproof up to 10 meters without a case, but once again, you have to make sure that everything, all the doors and all of the seals are tight and shut. It will probably be okay, but it does require some user input to make sure all of these, like for example, this door here is a little bit flimsy. I've actually had this come off when I've tried to open to get access to the USB port and the charger, but it does click back on pretty easily. But once again, that's a tiny little design flaw there. So just make sure if you do use it underwater that everything is fully closed. So taking a look at the shooting modes, let's take a look at the menus. There are 6 shooting modes, and from left to right they include time-lapse, video mode, photo mode, DNG8, interval, and the AEB shooting mode. You're basically going to be mostly using the video mode and probably the DNG8 if you're going to be taking photos, as that is the way to get the best quality photos from the camera. It would have been good to see a few more shooting modes in the QooCam 3. If we look at other cameras, they mostly have a single lens mode now. I think it's a bit of an obvious miss to not be able to use just one of the lenses to shoot standard, say, 4K video, which you can with the X3, or even flat 1080p video like you can with the GoPro Max at a few different resolutions and frame rate options. So I think that's something that's missing, and hopefully it will come in an update. As I mentioned, the video is capped at 5.7K at 30 frames per second, and you also have the option of 4K at 60 frames per second if you wanted. I think that would be good for faster moving shots, action shots, or if you wanted to incorporate some slow motion into your videos. But this is pretty much par for the course now with every 360 camera that's come out for the past, I guess, 4 or 5 years. It's basically the same options, so there's nothing really new there. So let's take a look at some more videos I've shot with this camera over the past week or so. By the way, Kandao does have its own invisible selfie stick now, which attaches to the standard tripod mount there, so you can get that invisible selfie stick effect, the fake drone effects. As you can see, I've been attempting to do that here. And overall, I do think the video looks pretty crisp, pretty nice. The slightly larger sensors allowing for a bit more dynamic range, dealing with very bright conditions a bit better than older 360 cameras, but it's not a massive difference. The QooCam also features stabilization in a similar way to GoPro and Insta360. They call it super steady, but it basically uses the 360 information there to keep your video super stable. So this should also make for a good action camera. At least that is what is being suggested in the marketing for this camera. So I did go out and try and test it as much as I can, but you know, I've not been skiing or anything really intense with the camera, but just running, walking, using it with this invisible selfie stick, using it on a bike. It does seem to be able to handle those kinds of movements pretty well, certainly better than any other non-360 camera. This will still work better than those. And obviously you have that full 360 field of view to play with, so you can reframe and choose whatever direction you want the image to be seeing at any one moment. I am working with a pre-release version of the firmware and software, so I did notice some slight wobbles in the stabilization in some videos where it didn't really seem to take effect, but that could very well be due to the early firmware that I'm using, and when it's released, when you get the camera, it will have an updated firmware which should deal with some of the problems that I faced. Let's also take a look at some more of these DNG8 360 images that the QooCam 3 is capable of shooting. Now, it shoots these at 64 megapixels, and DNG8 is a kind of raw format. It does require you to process this in a free program, a desktop program that Kandao provides. But once you do this, you do get some really crisp, very good looking 360 images from a consumer camera, which is under $400. I think for the price of the camera, the images it can take are really impressive and definitely a selling point of this camera. So I think this could actually make for a decent camera for shooting virtual tours. If you wanted an all-in-one camera that was fairly cheap and could do high quality, relatively high quality virtual tours pretty quickly, then this is something that could do that. There is a little bit of a workflow for these DNG8 photos, and if you don't use the DNG8 and you just use the normal photos, then the quality does drop quite a lot. So if you were going to use this for 360 photography, then it would definitely be worth using those DNG8, that DNG8 setting. I've mentioned this with pretty much every camera that I review or talk about. The hardware obviously is very important. You want good hardware, but it only really matters if you have good software to back it up. That, I feel, was a problem with GoPro, where they had amazing hardware, but they just kind of forgot about the software and made it too difficult and too, well, just not enough there to make use of. Kandao, for its part, has made a good effort with its software. They have released a new app, a new desktop software, and just having a look first at the app here, you can see they've taken inspiration from Insta360 with these automatic effect creators where it gives you these built-in effects, where it gives you that tutorial, you go out and shoot, upload those files to the app, and then it will automatically create those effects. So basically the app is a very similar vibe. There's a reframing feature there. So the software, I would say, is a good start, but there are far less options, say, compared to other software options that are out there. And once again, I was using a pre-release version of the app, so not all of the features were activated. So yeah, when you get it, you'll have much more to play with. But so far it worked well, but there needs to be more updates. There needs to be more features. There's about half the amount of features on the QooCam app than the Insta360 one. It's definitely easier to learn because there's less clutter and content to get through, but the reframing works well, the tracking works well. That is something that is really important for a lot of people. The same can be said for the QooCam Studio software, the desktop software. This allows you to reframe your videos as well. Again, it works as intended. It doesn't have very many options, but you can reframe your videos and also export them at the highest quality possible using formats like ProRes, which allow you to keep the most information and get the highest quality. So the software is a work in progress, I would say, but it's a good start. It's definitely better than their previous options and definitely better than most other 360 camera providers. Insta360 is going to be the main comparison, and I do think their software is still quite far ahead, but who knows, there's definitely ways they can quickly catch up. The one very annoying thing, which I hope they fix very quickly, is when you use the app, you need to download the files from the camera to the app before you can even view them, before you can even edit them. And the issue I found is that if the phone goes to sleep or the screen turns off, the file transfer just stops and you need to restart it all over again. So you'd need to keep tapping your phone to keep it awake. So that was a bug that I found, which I hope is being fixed before it's released. Otherwise, it will take you a long time to transfer your files from the camera to your phone to be able to do anything with them anyway. So there you go, guys. That's my experience of the QooCam 3. Overall, I do really think it's an improvement on their previous efforts. It's definitely a competitor right now with the other 360 cameras out there. The hardware is probably among the most advanced, certainly with the larger sensors and the low aperture. I think it does produce the best low light 360 video that I've seen so far, although the difference isn't massive, and especially in daylight, the difference you won't probably notice unless you really kind of zoom in. I think this would make for a great VR 360 video camera, so video that you'd watch back on a VR headset and look around. So without the reframing, I think this will be a great camera for that. And starting at $349, I think it's really good value, to be honest. It's much cheaper than pretty much any other consumer 360 camera that can do everything that this camera can do. So for value for money, it's probably the best out there, but overall it still lags behind in terms of software. There's still some bugs there. It's still a bit basic in terms of the manipulating of the 360 video. And it would be great to have a single lens mode, maybe the time shift and get some like hyperlapse stuff there. Then it could be a real competitor to Insta360, which I think would overall be a good thing. So what do you think of the QooCam 3? Is it something that you would be interested in? Let me know in the comments below. I will be doing a comparison the Insta360 X3 because that's going to be what I think most people are wondering. So that's going to be the next video on this camera. So that will be coming up next time. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you found that useful. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.